Welcome to another test server match, 9.3 first test iteration. This was my first match with the new American Tier 7 light tank, the M41 walker-bulldog. And although it wasn't the best match, it certainly left some lasting impressions of this tank, which I'll talk about during the video. This tank has two gun choices, a conventional gun or an autoloader. They're both very similar, but the autoloader has worse turret bloom. It also has a very long reload, 10 shot clip but 30-second reload. So I just prefer the conventional gun. I don't really like having a very long reload to worry about when I'm driving a light tank. So the immediate first impression I got of this tank is it's just a chaffy. It's upscaled to tier 7. It's faster, it's more agile, but it's the same sort of thing. Very, very good accuracy on the move, very fast firing gun with decent pen. Small target. Now, this tank actually has pretty fucking decent gun for a light tank. 175 of pen APCR default round. The heat round, 210 pen. Does 150 alpha, which is pretty good. AHE is, well, AHE it's not worth shooting. Tank also has a lot of hit points, 910, which isn't bad for a tier 7 light. Now again, this is the test server. I'm playing with a very high ping and some packet loss, so I'm not having the easiest time hitting things. But you can get an idea of just how fast firing this thing is. It also has a very quick turret traverse, as you could probably tell just there. I'm shooting at the LTTB, the Soviet tier 7 medium, or sorry, tier 7 light, correction, which is essentially just an upscaled T50-2. So here I'm engaging another walker-bulldog and then an FCM, but the FCM gets away from me. This turret spins so quickly, it's like a top. Honestly, I think it may be one of the fastest traversing turrets in the game. Which is a theme with this tank. I honestly would not be surprised if it doesn't get hit with the nerf bat before it's introduced to the actual live server. The reason being it's just too good at everything. I think it's my favourite of all the new tanks. Certainly my favourite of all the American light tanks, but I think my favourite overall as well. So here I do something stupid. I sit in front of an E25 and try and exchange fire with him. Now, if you know anything about the E25, you know damn well not to sit in front of it. That thing is so high DPM. It might not have the pen, but it just fires so quickly, there's no reason to ever sit in front of it. So I do eventually slide down the hill, not intentionally, I was just trying to get in defilade and I went a bit too fast. Again, this is my first match in this game, or in this tank, sorry. I was still getting used to it in this game, and it's so responsive to the controls and so fast, it's very difficult not to fuck yourself up doing stuff like that.
Ready to fire.
Top speed, nearly 80 kilometers an hour. And it hits it fast, it accelerates very quickly. Again, careless driving cost me. But it's a pretty sturdy little thing, its tracks will eat a lot of damage.
We've fixed the track. Track fixed. Let's roll. That one didn't go through.
Now, like the other American light tanks, it has practically no armor. Almost any gun it will face in a tier 8 or 9 match will overmatch it anywhere, but you do occasionally get lucky bounces. Just look at how this thing moves though. It is probably one of the most pleasant tanks in the game to drive. It turns on a dime, it accelerates like a rocket. Interesting point to note about the LTTB is it retains the same general hull shape as the 50-2. It is literally just an upscaled 50-2 in almost every regard. Replace the 57mm with an 85mm, make it a bit bigger. Speed similar, it drives very similar, it handles very similarly to the old 50-2. The difference is the LTTB actually has halfway decent front armor, as in comparable with any tier 7 or 8 medium hull armor, which is rather bizarre for a light tank. It won't save you, but it might give you a little bit more lifespan than you would normally expect in a light. I'm just going to talk over the rest of the game because I did something very stupid. Tried to snipe instead of just charging in while this guy was distracted and getting on his flank. I'm basically blind playing on the test server. I have no XVM. I don't know how much health tanks have if I can't see them directly. I don't know where things were last spotted unless I actually was paying attention to the map when they disappeared. So I have to try and figure out from my teammates what's going on. Those of you who had your eyes on the chat may have just noticed I was asking how many hit points the FCM still had. The answer was not many, which is all I needed to know. Clearly, shooting from long distance is not a forte of this tank. It's actually, I'm going to say, it's not that bad for a light tank, accuracy-wise, at long distances, and the pen is quite good. The problem is you really shouldn't be shooting at this kind of distance with a light, especially against moving targets. If these guys were sitting out in the open, sure, but in this situation I should have just charged straight in there, like our other lights did. But still getting used to the tank. I wasn't sure how much punishment it could take, and I was, I don't know, kind of not playing my best. I think I've got some more videos I want to put up of the M41 doing what the M41 does, but this was one I decided to put up just as my first impression of the tank, so you guys can sort of get the same first look at it that I did. And certainly you can see what happens if you're a little too careless with the driving. It does take a little bit of getting used to, just because it's so much more responsive than other tanks. It does handle so much better, but once you do, it's really, really pleasant to drive. It's, like I said at the start of the video, it is an upscaled Chaffee. Everything that Chaffee was good at, this is better at. So, you know, high rate of fire, high accuracy on the move, it has that. Small size, making it hard to hit, it has that. The fucking superb handling of the Chaffee, it has that as well. So really just a very nice, well-rounded light tank without many problems. Honestly, the biggest issue you're likely to run into is its armor being so thin, which is not really a problem in a light tank, let's be honest. So, as I did say, I would not be surprised if this tank sees a nerf or two before it hits the live server. As it stands, I think it's just too good. It's easily the best of all the new light tanks. The RU-251 does have a better gun, but this is just all around the best light tank in the game. The T-71 doesn't even compete with this as far as I'm concerned. The old Chaffee doesn't either. I know it is a tier 7, so you know the comparisons with the old Chaffee are a little ropey, but I am saying tier for tier, this is a better tank than the Chaffee was. This is a better tank than the T-71 currently is. It's a better tank than the Wheezy 131 or 132. It's hands down the best light tank in the game as far as I'm aware. Now, I'm not a huge light tank player. I do enjoy them, but I'm not very good at them. I suppose somebody who plays them a lot, like say Tazalon, or I don't even know who else plays light tanks a lot. I'm sure they have opinions of their own, but this one is the one I would pick if I could only own one light tank. So it's something to think about. The other thing to think about with this tank is whether you want to use the autoloader or not. Now, the guns are more or less the same. I think they have the same pen, the same accuracy and handling, more or less. The difference is the autoloader has bad turret bloom compared to this gun. At least this is what I've read. I haven't actually tried the autoloader yet. I might do it later and put up a video. But I don't know. As far as light tanks go, I've always preferred the ability to just sustain a high rate of fire over burst damage and then a long reload. The AMX gets some leeway because the AMX actually does a lot of burst damage. I mean, 90mm shells hurt. They hurt really bad. And the T-71 gets away with it because it has quite a short reload considering. So those two are okay, I think, but I mean, a 10-shot drum with 150 alpha, the pen's okay, but I don't know if that's worth a 30-second reload. I'd be inclined to say no, simply because it may leave you vulnerable at a bad time, and in a light tank, you really can't afford to be on reload if somebody comes at you. But who knows, maybe I'll put up a video showing it, maybe I won't. I'll leave it to you guys to work out which fits your own playstyle the best, but I'm going to make a strong recommendation in favour of the conventional gun. I should also note that the conventional gun on the T-37 is hands down better than the autoloader on that tank. It has better pen as well. The T-37's autoloader is basically an autoloading version of the gun that Chaffee currently gets. The conventional gun, I think, is more in line with this, or more in line with the T-71. So it's a higher pen gun. I've got a couple videos of, I think a couple of this, one or two of the T-49, and then some of the Soviet light tanks as well. I can't remember if I got one so far of the RU-251, but if not, I'm going to try and get one before the end of test, so you guys can see all the new light tanks in action. Thanks for watching, and if you are into this kind of thing and want to see more coming from the 9.3 test server, or just more world tanks in general, this is the place to find it, because if there is one thing my channel has in abundance, it is tanks. Catch you next time, and have fun on the battlefield.